For this episode of Analog Chats, I got to speak to Jess, Mel and Sarah. It was a really interesting conversation. We spoke about things like the thought process behind taking a photo, some experimental ways that we've used film, and also what it's currently like to be a woman in photography. I found this so inspiring, and I'm sure you're going to feel really creative after watching this. We're going to start off with quite an easy one, I think. When did you first discover your love for photography?
I mean, I look pretty young, but I actually, film photography was the only option when I was like a kid. My dad had like all these cameras around and stuff, and we were always going to, we had these rabbit photo shops in Sydney that we would always go to. But yeah, no, I love the magic of it. Just, I remember like going to events when I was a kid and just having disposables and those weird, did anyone remember like those iZone cameras? Like almost like when you go to like a deli and you get like a ticket and it's got a weird like V-prong kind of thing.
Is this an Australian thing? Because
I'm not sure. Okay, it was a weird.
The thing before stacks. It's kind of like old stacks, but yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, you remember them? Yeah, so you'd like rip it out like this little ticket thing, and it had like this little tiny square like Polaroid.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like a 110 camera, but wasn't. Yeah, no, I just remember like having these little like gimmicky things in the 90s. And Polaroids, of course. Digital obviously developed, and that was like really cool watching that kind of grow from having like a crappy little digital camera that had like no megapixels and these super, I don't know why we were all so impressed by getting back this super blurry image, but just like the thought of it being digital was fascinating.
Well, yeah, it was the wowness of it, wasn't it? You're like, what?
Yeah, right.
Oh, it doesn't matter that I can only see 3 dots that's vaguely make up an image, but yeah.
As soon as that started getting to a point where, like every man and their dog was able to take like these digital photos and get like really, really good results, there was kind of like a return for me back to like film. And I just fell back in love again because it's just, I don't know, nothing beats film.
Yeah, I think I have a kind of a similar thing in that when I grew up, there wasn't digital. I was a kid in the 90s, so I shot film. I had an Olympus AF10. It was my first little point and shoot camera. And my dad is a filmmaker and a photographer, so I kind of was always surrounded by cameras. But yeah, I just like shot loads and loads and loads. And when I was a teenager, I shot loads. And then when digital came in, I kind of just stopped shooting film. And then it was only really when I moved to London that I picked up a film camera at Greenwich Market. And yeah, that's kind of, it just evolved from there. Now I only really shoot digital for work.
For me, I think I started off a little bit later and never really got that into digital photography in a more professional sense. Like I had a shitty digital camera as a teenager, but it was probably like my later teenage years that I started like buying into like the shitty gimmicky film cameras, like the disposables and the little plastic cameras and things like that, and kind of found the charm of that. And then I think in my mid-20s, I kind of picked that up again. And like I'd always kind of tried to learn photography like in a digital sense. Like I tried to do subjects in it at uni and things like that, and just like never really made sense in my head. And then I started really slowly teaching myself again with like the shitty plastic cameras, and then slowly working my way up to like cameras with more controls. And like that was the way that learning the fundamentals of photography made sense to me, because I don't know, for me it just kind of made more sense in terms of applying that to film and waiting for the results and then thinking back to what you did and seeing how that turned out. And like I don't know, I feel like you can, like anyone can pick up a DSLR camera and keep shooting and keep playing with the settings, or just set it on auto and they'll get a good shot eventually. Yeah. But having to do that on a film camera where you're limited to the amount of shots you get, it really makes you kind of pay more attention to what you're doing and what's going to work for you, and make sure that you kind of repeat the good results and avoid the mistakes. And like that's just the way that I learnt to take decent pictures, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because even though I was shooting like on a DSLR for many years, I don't think I really understood how it all worked and how all the, the functions work together and stuff. It was only once I started shooting film that I was like, but I actually really like to know, how does ISO work with aperture, work with, your shutter speed? How does, what is depth of field? On a digital camera, you can kind of just do it all without knowing what you're actually doing. I mean, sure, I could have actually just sat down and read about it and learned, but I don't think I really, was that interested at that point.
Do it in practice to really understand stuff properly.
To really understand and to be like, it doesn't, with the digital, you're like, it doesn't matter if I fuck up because I have infinite shots. But you're like, no, I don't want to screw up this expensive roll of film. So I'm going to actually try and, work out what I'm doing and make the most of each shot.
I also just love all the variables with film because it's just things that you wouldn't have otherwise considered if you're shooting digital. It's just amazing. You just look at things and you're like, man, I wonder how I got that. Like, that wasn't what I was aiming for. But how do I duplicate that?
And I think like with film as well, like I've been shooting like quite consistently on film for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years now. And I'm still always learning and learning and learning. And I love that. Like I hadn't like had something to continue learning in a while, like since, finishing school and uni and all of that. And it's something that like I'll get really good at, maybe one process or working with a particular camera. And then I'll realize that I can do something else and I'll be like, I'm going to work out how to do that now. And it's just like this thing that you can keep progressing with and learning.
Yeah. When you take a photo, what is going through your mind when you take that picture? What do you look for? What kind of subjects are you drawn to?
I mean, I like to look for stories. And just like, it depends on what you're taking photos of, I guess, but in regards to like street photography, which I think, we all take photos of street photography. It's just like seeing a moment and then kind of feeling like you're really connecting to it and just hopefully you're quick enough to capture that shot. Portraiture as well. Like I really like to try and capture like a feeling of that person. I guess it's hard to explain in a way. But I'm sure like anyone, taking a photograph can relate, like to like trying to capture what's in front of them in a way that tells a story.
I'm more into kind of observational photography, if that's the word, just like street photography, but a lot of architecture, buildings, lines, symmetry, tunnels. Like I could shoot in the London Underground for the rest of my life and shoot nothing else, and I'd probably be happy. So that's kind of, I think, what I look for when I'm shooting.
I'm similar. I feel like I'm most naturally drawn to landscapes and architecture, and it's the same. Like a building with some really nice geometry is always like what I'm attracted to. But I've been trying to like expand a bit more on what I shoot, and I've tried to get a bit more into portraiture, and it's definitely a
challenging.
It's really hard, especially if it's not really what you're naturally inclined for. But I'm finding that interesting. But it's definitely like a completely different thought process. Shooting a big building with its lines and angles, and shooting a person, and trying to convey the feeling and. Like thinking about the relationship between yourself and the person that you're shooting, and trying to make them feel comfortable or feel warm and open, and like you're having like an equal exchange. And I didn't expect so much psychology to kind of come into my head when trying to shoot people, but it's been like a really thought-provoking process every time I've tried to do it. And I just kind of go off and think like of so many different aspects that I feel like I need to be working in and thinking about. It's interesting.
And even just the initial psychology of like psyching yourself up to ask people if you can take photos of them. I'm just like, oh my God. And usually it's fine. Like I can't even think of a time where someone has said no. Actually, no, I can. I was like, just before lockdown, we were at Rowan's in Finsbury Park bowling, and there was a Orthodox Jewish couple bowling at the lane next to us, and I was like, I've got to take a photo. I just desperately want to take a photo of them, and I psyched myself up to ask, and the guy was like, yeah, and then his wife was like, no. And I was like, okay, I'm so sorry.
That's the thing though, once you do it and you get rejected and you're like, oh, I didn't die, like it's fine, I'll just go back over here now. And
just wanted a portrait of them just standing there like with their bowling balls in the alley. Would have been so brilliant. They had like
great.
Anyway, but it is, I do find it challenging asking people, and I'm really trying to sort of work on that a bit more.
I've got to say, I almost feel like, not to generalize, but I feel like this is a thing that female photographers probably get more psyched out about, like just from talking to people. I think we're more aware of you know, invading people's spaces and
Spaces.
not wanting to make people uncomfortable. And like I've spoken to a lot of friends that are male photographers that are just like, just go ask them. And
I
it's
know.
like,
Yeah, and the
it
funny
really
thing,
isn't that bad in the end. Like,
it's not that bad. Yeah.
Rejected, and it's like, oh, I'll go over here. Or people are usually quite flattered, and they're like, oh yeah, of course, let me post for you. Yeah.
Currently, what is your favourite film camera and film stock combination to use?
So I'm shooting, I'd say camera-wise, I'm shooting mostly with the cheapest camera that I own, which is my shitty early 2000s Canon SLR, which I got for £10 on eBay, and it does everything, and it takes all my Canon EF lenses, so I can put like my expensive lenses on this cheap body. But it's brilliant. It's great for street photography because I can autofocus. It's great for basically everything. So that's what I'm shooting most of my stuff with. Film wise, I don't really stick to one film, so I'm not sure if I can. If I had to pick one. I'd probably go with Portra 400 or Kodak Color Plus.
Those two are like my answer completely.
Yeah.
Kodak Color Plus for the cheapness.
Kodak Color Plus is
you can't
can't go wrong.
400 is just like the optimal for like all outdoor settings.
400 is my favorite ISOs. My favorite speed generally because it's great for low light, but you can also shoot it during the day and it doesn't matter.
I've kind of been struggling a little bit since like coming home back to Oz, like with just the different kind of temperature and the lighting here. Funnily enough, I've been like sticking to HP5 and just running around when I can, but sometimes it's just so bright here that like it's just like completely the wrong film. But I've just been switching between my K1000 and I've got a little half frame Olympus Pen EE now.
What about you, Mel, in terms of cameras? What do you mostly shoot?
Similar to you, I've got a shitty old Canon SLR that
I love it. It's so good though, isn't it?
Yeah. Mine's like a Canon FTV. It's from the 80s, I think. And I've dropped it a lot. I got sand in it at one point. It's still kicking. It's probably maybe on its last legs, but that's like my old faithful. I went back to my old roots lately and bought on eBay an old Holga 135 BC. I've got it here. It's like the shittiest of plastic cameras.
Lovely.
This was what I learned photography initially. I had a periwinkle blue one, but that one is long gone. So I bought this shitty black one and it's been a lot of fun. Really good for like multi-exposures because you can just click down as many times as you want before winding on and easy. That's
funny. Like how many of you have gone back and bought cameras you had in like your childhood or teenage years just because of nostalgia?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, that's how I ended up with the K1000 actually. Yeah. I'm trying to track back on some older ones that I like lying around, but they're hard to find. I got one of those the Millennium Polaroids though, the like 90s, like really alien looking one. It's really ugly though. In hindsight, I don't like that.
They're really chunky as well. I had a Polaroid 600 for a while there, and it was fun. But just anytime you wanted to take it was like,
you forget how big they are until you decide to put one in your bag.
Yeah, you have to really commit to actually taking it out with you.
If you could pick one camera to own right now, like your dream camera, what would it be?
You know what? I've been keeping a bit of an eye out at the moment. So I'm into like the multi-lens cameras, and I think you guys have all seen my Nishika N8000 with the 4 lenses.
Yes.
But there are like from like the 90s, they're kind of called like nicknamed golf cameras. So they've got like 16 lenses, and they were used to shoot golf, like when the guy was swinging, because it was so you can either shoot them all at once or they go in succession, and you can
amazing.
Sometimes change the timing of that. And just being able to like get one of those and like piece the images together to kind of like, either make like an animation or like it kind of like rotating around an image if you do it all at once. And they're really expensive on eBay, and like they just look like such like poor quality cameras.
How much do they go for?
Like I've seen them for like, I think maybe minimum £300 at the moment. Like like I can't justify that at all.
No, I know. I mean, it's so weird. The prices of cameras is just like inexplicable. I don't know. I don't know if I have a dream camera. For a long time, I desperately wanted a Nikon F3 and I got one last year. So I kind of feel like I've fulfilled that. I don't really hanker after, I mean, yes, if I had money, I'd probably buy a Leica, but I mean, do I need it's one of those things where I just don't know if, are my images going to be so much exponentially better, with a camera that costs £2,000 and with a camera that costs £300. I just don't. I don't know. I like, it's one of those weird things. So I'd say my Nikon F3, got it.
Okay. No, I definitely agree with that as well. Like, I don't really have like an end goal camera because I think that I'm just going to keep buying cameras, to be honest with you. But I am kind of fangirling and wanting to buy this certain medium format camera at the moment that my friend recommended to me. And yeah, I'm just currently saving. It's a Fujifilm 693.
Yeah.
It's 6x9. I did tell a friend about this and he told me, why don't you just skip to large format? But I just can't see myself carting around in a large format camera anytime soon.
Okay, the next thing I wanted to ask was, which way have you used film in kind of like an experimental way? So that would be kind of like with maybe double exposures or like maybe a developing style or something like that.
The only experimental things I've done, and this was recently because I was bored, so I was like, I gotta try something different. I developed some slide film in C41, which is the first time I'd ever done that, so that was fun. And I shot a roll of Color Plus like backwards through the anti-halation layer, so like red scales the film. It's really, really fun to play with. So everything, comes up as these, and it's kind of varying degrees of sort of red and purple, and it just differs from frame to frame. I think depends how much light you've got and stuff. So that was really cool. I suggest trying that if you've got the time.
I was a really big fan of those photos, Sarah. The ones that you took are like very warm, but like very post-apocalyptic. Like
that's what it reminded me of. It was like post-apocalypse, life on Mars kind of vibe. I don't know, maybe because who gave me the idea was Dan Cole.
Oh yeah.
So I saw he had done it. So then I messaged him and we chatted a bit about it. And he said to shoot it. So I shot the Color Plus at 50 ISO. So I don't know if maybe people haven't shot it that way or what they've done, or it's just different ways of doing it. But and I shot it in my Olympus trip. And I was just so pleased. They came out like so much better than I'd expected them to. Obviously, you just have to roll a roll into an old canister because you need to flip it. But it's really fun to try.
I'm a big fan of multi-exposure. It's kind of like one of the first things that really kind of got me hooked with film photography, and it's always kind of come back every now and then. I get back into it. I did these they were pretty weird. It was like early quarantine isolation.
Great. The Paris one.
They're pretty weird. I just had this idea in my head for like weeks after doing like all these like conference calls at work and stuff, and like the backgrounds, and I was also like a bit sad about the fact I wasn't going to be able to travel anywhere anytime soon. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to insert myself into the photos that I've already taken. So that was a pretty weird process. I cast images like that I'd already shot on film onto my television, kind of worked out the optimal settings of shooting a television without getting weird lines.
Wow.
Rolled up.
I was wondering how you did this.
There's a bit of mathematics and planning involved, but I had to kind of work out, exactly, because that's the thing with double exposure is that you really, if you want to get it really accurate on film anyway, you've got to make sure you've got the film lined up in the right place both times. So I had to kind of mark it out, because I've done it a lot before, and it's like as it gets on later in the roll, it kind of starts being like half of one image and half the other, and they overlap in a weird way. And it's quite cool when it, it's you've just shot whatever and you're just hoping to see what happens.
The luck of it. Yeah.
With this, I was trying to place myself in certain positions, so I had to kind of keep looking back at the photo that I'd taken the next time round, and I was like posing in my garden, and it was just ridiculous, but it worked out. So
well. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so lazy. I just bought a camera that I knew would do the multi-exposure for me, because I just got sick of all the planning. But that's really cool, because you get like all the happy accidents in a way as well. The other thing that I love playing around with as well, now I think of it, is my dad had all these like super old Koken filters that do like numerous things like gradients, speed, kind of like ones that kind of like would blur half the image. So it'd be really good if you were like taking
cool.
action shots like on like a race course or something. I'm supposing that's what he took photos of because he was really into that. Prisms, multi-prisms. Those. I really want one though. Those ones look with the rainbow.
Yeah.
Really
I got this from a website called Future Eyes.
Yes.
Based
Love
in LA.
this.
The shipping took a while, but it wasn't too expensive. But there's another place called Spectrum Effects. I think they're based in the US as well. I've been like ruling over these crazy filters for a while now. They've got a lot of like multiplier ones that kind of multiplies like a point like in the center of where the lens is, and motion, kind of fake motion blur and like different kind of colors. And this one I've got is fun, but it doesn't attach to the lens, so you kind of have to hold it in front of it, so it's a little limiting. It's depending on where you hold it, it produces either some interesting colored effects or just some like multiplication effects, and it's very fun to play with.
I just thought of something else I did during lockdown, just because you were talking about having to hold the filter in place. I wanted to shoot some macro photography, but I don't have a macro lens, so I did the old flipperoo. So I used my Yashica FX3 and I got a 55mm lens on that, flipped it around, but I taped it. I managed to like fashion this like thing so that it was actually fitted to the mount, and it was like light safe and everything, just using like electrical tape or whatever. And I shot a roll of macro stuff that came out really, really well. I was quite pleased with that.
Of course, analog meetups is a space where absolutely everyone is welcome, and we are really, really passionate about that. And what is great is that we've just had an increase in women every time coming to the meetups, and that's how we all met, which is great. I just want to talk a bit about, what do you think about women in photography right now? Are we seeing a change in like things being a bit more equal, or how do you feel about it in general?
I think we're definitely seeing a change. Yeah, for sure.
There's still a lot to go though.
Yeah.
I think that men are widely overrepresented within the photography industry, and that probably trickles down to film photography and just with a lot of things. But I mean, I definitely remember a few years ago, like starting out in film photography and feeling very gate-kept out of it by young male dude bros. I remember like
I feel that.
Yeah, I used to go to a camera store in Melbourne, and they resold old cameras, and had a lot of young guys that were really into film photography working there, and just like trying to ask them questions, then they'd just kind of brush you off, and then like, you know, I would walk in with like maybe a bit more impressive camera, and it would be like a full conversation. So I mean, stuff like that was very frustrating, and I think that's still out there, but I don't feel it as much.
I think it's like what's interesting, Chloe, because I think there is a difference between like what we see on photo walks compared to, I think, what the actual reality is. Like, I feel like, so your photo walks and Rob's photo walks are the only two I've been on, and both of them are, even though it's getting better, are hugely dominated by the boys. So and I was kind of like, at the beginning I was like, I wonder why that is. I just couldn't quite put a finger on it, but I don't think that it is such a stark contrast in reality. I think there are a lot of female photographers out there, definitely not as many as there are male photographers, and that just comes from the trickle down of historically the film business and photography world just being a male dominated thing. It's getting better, but it takes time. But I think, and maybe you guys can add your 2 cents about this, I think that women, as we were saying earlier, are a little bit more timid about things, and perhaps would feel not as at ease coming to those kind of like social gatherings, especially if they don't know other people. Whereas dudes, that doesn't really bother them that much. They'll just come along. And also I think women might think that, I don't know, I'm like, maybe I'm not that into the gear or the technical side of stuff. I don't know that much. And if I don't know that much, like, am I going to get bamboozled by guys talking about stuff? And will I look stupid if I don't know that much? And kind of just, a little bit about everything. So maybe they tend to sort of stay away and not come to those things. I don't know. What do you think?
I completely agree with that sentiment.
I think
in general, like, I think men are a lot better equipped in life to be confident when they don't maybe have all the skills. I feel like women need to feel like, and this is like reflected in like, you know, hiring in different industries and everything.
This is like all of society.
Much better equipped to be able to come into a room or anywhere, any situation, and portray that confidence. And I think men are just a lot better equipped to be confident when they maybe don't have all the backing just yet. So I think, absolutely, like a man that maybe has just started dabbling into photography is going to be like, I'll go to a meetup, I've got this camera. I felt that myself. And like when I first moved to London, I thought photography meetups was going to be like a good way to meet people. And I definitely went to a few where quite male dominated, also like maybe filled with like people that have been in the industry longer. It does feel a little bit intimidating when you're not feeling like you're, you know, stepping up to their standards. So I found that difficult at first. And finding analog meetups and the London Camera Project doing their walks as well were definitely a lot more open experiences. And
totally, I've never been made to feel like I didn't know what I was talking about or mansplained or anything in any way. I think they're like both the groups, and you know, people overlap between the two, so you know a lot of the people are incredibly warm and welcoming, which has been really great, and I think quite diverse in you know in terms of things. But it's, I don't know, it's just something I've like been speaking to a lot of people about, and because I don't really worry that much. I'm quite like, I really enjoy meeting new people, making new friends, especially with people who have similar interests. So I am very keen to go to those kinds of things, meetups, whatever, even if I don't know people. But just having spoken to a lot of people who have been like, oh no, I definitely wouldn't go to one of those if I didn't have a buddy with me or something. I don't know, Chloe, what do you think?
When I started organising them, I was the only girl. I knew that there was a problem with it, and I was like, how do we get more women coming to these things? But I think, I don't know,
having you helping run them, Chloe, like like that just
that helped a lot.
Again, like that's representative everywhere. You get better representation at the heads of things, then the trickle down effect is instantaneous, basically. So you being a woman, you know, organizing these things and being welcoming and showing that, you know, this is a place where women are, you know, included and respected and welcome. That's literally all it takes to start, you know, making change.
Okay, I agree with you, Chloe, though. Like when you're the first kind of one, just going into like I guess the boys club it's kind of intimidating because you don't really know what the reaction's going to be. But I find that everyone in the community is just super welcoming. So I think it just comes back to same as with like us, like going up and asking people questions, like to take their photo. We kind of just get stuck in our head a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think on a professional level as well, like I kind of work with a media. I think you guys have worked with a media too, so you know, like it is still like male dominated, and I think you just kind of get used to it in a way. But I think I've been on some shoots where I've been directing something and I'll have a man like as an assistant, and the client comes in, even though I've been emailing them the whole time, they come in and talk straight to the guy because
oh my god, that is the worst.
Awkward.
He's in charge, and I'm just like, that really angers me, but it's something that we kind of get used to, which is not good, but I guess
you shouldn't, but you're right. But I think like it just makes a world of difference having better representation in all aspects of you know the workplace, in you know cultural groups, just everything. Once there's more diversity, even if you were doing fine before, once you've got more people on your side that know what you're feeling and know what you're about, it just feels much better, and you probably do better work and you probably interact better. And
so it's like positive moving forward. I think that's great.
For sure.
Okay, cool. Kind of wanted to just end on something which I think is quite nice to do. So I thought we could like pick one of each other's pictures and just say why we like them. So I'm going to start off by saying like some of my favorites from you guys. So I'll start with Sarah. So Sarah, when I first found your Instagram, it was this picture of Gants Hill.
Oh, my favorite station in all the world.
Such a nice
I've been there
photo.
twice in my life, and both times was just to photograph. Like, I've never needed to go there.
I have half my family actually live there, so I've grown up always going to that station and just being like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah,
so I think I was drawn to that picture straight away, but also kind of like the vibe of it and the light and the composition and everything was just so, I don't know, there was something that drew me to that. And then I think that's when I started following you, and I just love that kind of train underground kind of vibe.
Yeah, I love it. You know, I mean, shooting the underground is like it involves everything, because obviously it involves people as well as the symmetry and the lines and the trains and the tunnels, and like honestly I could never get bored of shooting in metro systems. I wish I could travel the world doing it.
Like I think Russia,
Russia. That's what Gansil reminds me of, what I think like the Russian the metro system would be like.
Does that mean that Russia is the place to go for like
yeah, if you want like cathedral like metro stations, St. Petersburg and Moscow, I think are the places to go.
Jess, this shot.
Like I was definitely not sober when I took that photo, but I remembered it for a long time, and got it developed 5 years later, which is not what you're meant to do when you shoot scene still. Do not wait that long to develop it.
I think
I managed to save it though, and I love the fact, like, because I remember just thinking straight afterwards, it's too dark. There's no way that photo is turning out. Like, it was almost pitch black when I saw him meditating under that tree. And I'm so glad it turned out.
The whole thing is so mystical. It's so trippy. I just love it. Okay, and then Mel, there's like loads, by the way, of you guys. So it was really hard to pick, but I think that was
oh my god, I love that one as well on the bins. Yes.
That was the night photo walk, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I brought my Nishika along, I think, for the first time, and had a lot of fun with like this obnoxious flash as well, and getting in people's faces. So that's the good thing about these meetups. I think you get a bit more. I think we'd had a few beers as well, to be honest. So I probably
that's
wasn't
the best combination, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get the confidence, and I remember just seeing those guys like doing a little arm wrestling thing in the middle of Soho, and I was like, oh, okay, get it and run. Yeah, it was fun.
But you really feel like the atmosphere through that picture. Like, I remember that night really well, and just that whole Soho late night kind of thing is really
All right, Chloe. I mean, again, there was like a few of all of yours, but I really, really love this. Like,
oh my God,
think just the colors and the lighting and the light on her face and like the moment, the look on her face. It's just such a great capture. It's was she dancing or moving, or what was?
Yeah, she was literally dancing and like doing all this like performance art. It was actually the first photo shoot that I've done in a studio with film. So we had like dados and like light gels and
awesome.
a projector. So
amazing.
She took all these pictures and we projected it while she was like moving. So it was really fun.
Mel, it was just hard. Okay, there were so many of yours I loved, but I really love this because I think also just because I would have probably taken this exact same picture.
Oh yeah.
It's just like totally up my road. Like just the way you framed it and like the light, the light on the tower thing. Really, really loved this one. What did you take it on? Let's see. Color Plus?
Yeah,
Color 200. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jess, so this one, I really like this moment, this dude.
Oh, he was like, just perfect the way he lined up.
He's just like, you just think, what is he thinking? Where is he going? He's just walking along. His hair's like, he's like having a puff. Like, yeah, it's just, I mean, that's the kind of street photography I really, really like. Those moments you get of people as they're just going about their daily lives. It's great. Do you know what you shot that on?
That, I'm ashamed to say, was actually a digital camera.
Oh, well, that's all right.
A digital camera shot on my whole feed.
Oh, really? And I picked that one. I didn't even.
But I liked it so much.
It's really great.
The way that it captured, like, it didn't look entirely.
That's so weird. It didn't even look like digital to me. I just assumed that was.
That's what I thought as well. And I was just like, I'm gonna add this on here. I feel a bit uncomfortable, but I will.
No shame. Absolutely no shame.
It kind of coincides with what I was saying before, like, when I capture an image that tells a story, like I really just want to put it out there.
Yeah.
And that guy, it was the same thing. Like, what is he thinking? Where is he going? Does he live in London? Is he just visiting? Because that was in the middle of Chinatown, in the middle of the day. And also just love that he's just like smoking and walking.
Like you were saying before, Sarah, with all the red scale images, I've been really obsessed with those. But I did pick out one that I really like. Like, I liked all
my
of them.
favorite too. That's my favorite of all of them.
Crazy lighting and shadows.
Yeah.
like it just looks like a shot from a horrible apocalyptic film where everything is going to shit.
Yeah, the world's on fire.
Very into it. But yeah, you take some great, just like, architectural landscapes in general. I think you do really well.
Very drawn to that. Yeah.
Always frothing over those. Got one from Jess, a really nice double exposure. I don't know if you can tell it's a double exposure. Just a really, really interesting, I love a good double exposure as well. And I think you've taken some really cool ones that, I think it's you've done it with the camera in one go, right? Like it's like you've shot and then shot again.
Yeah. For that one, I really wanted to show, we were like at like Bank Station, well, not the one there, but the one near St. Paul's, and just people were rushing past us, and I was like looking at the architecture and taking photos of all the buildings and stuff, and I really wanted to capture just like the people that were like spilling past us. And that was the only shot that actually turned out to be interesting.
I think it's such a gamble when you're doing multi-exposures
100%.
Like in one go like that as well. But I think if you can, like, the ability to capture two different images to like really like create the story or create the situation more so than just one image, I think is a really good skill to have when it works out. For sure.
That's just one type of experimental photography that I do recommend. Don't do that drunk. It never turns out well.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. It's just, I mean, you just end up really confused.
Yeah. I've got one for Chloe as well. I think, were these at God's Own Junkyard?
Yes. Although I should just say, we're not actually allowed to take pictures there. So we were there for like half an hour, but I'm so happy with how those came out because I was really like rushed. And he kept like walking around to be like, are you done yet?
Yeah, I thought those images were really amazing and would not have guessed that you were strapped for time and being pressured by some guy. I didn't realize that was the rule there. I haven't been there before, but it was like on my list of places to shoot.
I actually had the same photo, Chloe, that Sarah did for you. And I really loved this one, this whole shoot when you put it up. I just thought it was amazing. Like, this was shot on Porter. And it just looks so cinematic. Like, all the colors are just beautiful. The lighting, just the moment that she's kind of having as well. Like, the expressions, like, it's amazing. This is all up my alley though. I'm like, if I see different colors, like in like a night shot, I'm just like, I get giddy. For Mel, I really loved this one. I remember when you posted it and I was just like, dang. I'm like, that's the kind of shit I want to take photos of.
That was in Morocco. I did a trip there last year and it was incredible and I shot so much film. I was there maybe like 10 days and like traveled through the country and it's less, I mean, so culturally different to anywhere I've ever been and just really beautiful and so interesting and great trip and very fun to shoot.
Like, did they notice you taking the photo or did you just get away with like taking it on the slide there?
I just kind of did it and went, but I was with a group. Like, I was on like a one of those little tours with like 20 or 30 people. So I think it was one of the Medinas that was like probably quite used to having tourist groups come through and look at it. But they just go about their days and they're not particularly fast. So
I have had like a little bit of issues sometimes when I've been traveling and taking photos, mainly because I'm the kind of person, I don't like being too close to other people. So you can notice me standing a little bit away from the crowd. People do tend to notice my take photos of them. I'm not very sly.
Yeah, you've definitely got to be careful and like really respectful when you're in other countries shooting.
Yeah, 100%.
There's definitely places that I would have loved to shoot where I was like, no, not appropriate. And if, people yell at you, you got to stop. But I guess the thing with film is that, like everyone expects to be able to see the image and you'd be able to delete it if you do get confronted by someone. And it's a little bit awkward when you have a situation.
Yeah, you're like sorry.
And then you run.
Yeah. And Sarah, like, okay, I really love your feed. Like, you post so much.
No,
I did really love this one when you posted it. This guy, is he inside or is he outside? Like, I'm confused. Where is he?
There's glass in between us, so he's inside the vape, like this vape shop.
Oh,
on Brick Lane.
Oh, I would never have picked that as a vape shop. That's really cool.
He was there for hours and hours and hours. He was there like before we went to the
Analog.
Yeah, he was there then. I took that before we'd gone
okay.
to the shop, and then later on, after we'd been at I can't remember my brain right now, the place where we'd been drinking the beers, he was still there, just like 3 hours later, still smoking.
I'm so jealous I didn't
No,
get
it's
to
great.
talk to him.
I am a bit of a, like, I'm not a big fan of vape smokers due to the smelly cloud, but
Yeah.
they make great.
Every now and again, you're like, Sherry.
Yeah, get a waft of this Napoleana. Can you smell the ice cream? But yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, I love reflective shots like that, and he's just come through so clear as well.
Yeah, I was very pleased with that one.
Always easy to shoot through a window.
I was pleased with that. Yeah, I think there were a few other people who got shots of him as well. So he kind of was like, "Hey, all these people taking pictures of me." He was like.
Is there any advice that you girls would give to, I guess, young girls getting into photography, picking up their first film camera?
I think for me it's just enjoy it. Don't think about what pictures anyone else is taking. Like, don't worry about the camera. Just as long as you're enjoying it and it's fun and it's fulfilling that kind of artistic need that you have, then just do it.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to spend your time on Instagram looking at what other people are shooting and be like, oh, I should be shooting that. Why am I not shooting that? So just, shoot what you like and find your groove, I guess. And just shoot loads. Because I mean, I find, I've been shooting film pretty consistently for about 5 years now. And I was looking through all my pictures the other day and I was like, wow, I've gotten a lot better. And it's just like consistency. It will just improve your stuff. Yeah, without fail.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Shoot as much as you can afford to shoot on film. And then
practice on digital as well, even if you can't afford. Yeah.
No, don't discriminate. Shoot on whatever you want.
Yeah.
Buy shitloads of Color Plus. It's cheap. Do it. I think another thing is, if you're the sort of person that likes sharing your work on Instagram, I think when I stopped caring too much about curating my Instagram and kind of just made it more like a dumping ground of my work, I found that quite fulfilling. It's I don't take Instagram terribly seriously, but I think it is interesting getting feedback on stuff, and I've definitely posted images I didn't think were that good and gotten a lot of feedback that was quite positive from it, and it kind of surprises you. Yeah, exactly. You just like, I thought this was crap, and people are like telling me that it's really good work. And I think it's a really good way to kind of invigorate you and give you different perspective of, what isn't working, and just share your work, but don't care too much about what people think. And
that's what I would say as well. Just keep shooting and shoot as much as possible, because once you look back at it, you can see how you're growing, and you learn so much more by looking back at your old work as well. So just bring a camera with you everywhere if you can, and just shoot with whatever you've got available.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great advice. Okay, thank you so much. This has been amazing, and I hope we can all hang out in real life soon.
Ciao. Bye.